Hi there, in tonight's Bible Nugget, we're going to have the contrast between two people that were healed by Jesus. The first one is the man who was born blind. So the Pharisees and the Sadducees, they were annoyed because Jesus healed them on the Sabbath. And so they brought him in. This is John 9:24. A second time they summoned the man who'd been blind. "Give glory to God by telling the truth," they said. "We know this man is a sinner." And the blind man replied, "Whether he's a sinner or not, I don't know. But one thing I do know, I was blind, but now I see." Then they asked him, "What did he do to you? How did he open your eyes?" He answered, "I have told you already, and you did not listen. What, do you want to hear it again? Do you want to become his disciples too?" And they hurled insults at him and said, "You are this fellow's disciple. We are the disciples of Moses. We know that God spoke to Moses, but as for this fellow, we don't even know where he comes from." The man answered, "Now that is remarkable. You don't know where he comes from, yet he opened my eyes. We know that God does not listen to sinners. He listens to the godly person who does his will. Nobody has ever heard of opening the eyes of a man born blind. If this man were not from God, he could do nothing." To this they replied, "You were steeped in sin at birth. How dare you lecture us?" And they threw him out. Surprise, surprise. Jesus heard that they'd thrown him out, and when he found him, he said, "Do you believe in the Son of Man?" "Who is he, sir?" the man asked. "Tell me, so that I may believe in him." Jesus said, "You have now seen him. In fact, he is the one speaking with you." Then the man said, "Lord, I believe," and he worshipped him. That's amazing. That's awesome. What a hard attitude that guy had towards Jesus. He recognized who he was and what he was, and he was so thankful, and he worshipped him. If we contrast that with, so that was in John 9. If we go to John 5, we contrast it with a guy who was healed by the bull. In the start of chapter 5. Sometime later, Jesus went up to Jerusalem for one of the Jewish festivals. There is in Jerusalem near the sheep gate a pool, which in Aramaic is called Bethesda, and it's surrounded by 5 covered colonnades. Here a great number of disabled people used to lie: the blind, the lame, the paralyzed. One of these was there that had been an invalid for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and learnt that he'd been in this condition for a long time, he asked him, "Do you want to get well?" "Sir," the invalid replied, "I've no one to help me get into the pool when the water is stirred. While I'm trying to get in, someone else goes down ahead of me." Then Jesus said to him, "Get up, pick up your mat and walk." At once the man was cured. He picked up his mat and walked. Now the day on which this took place was a Sabbath. And so the Jewish leaders said to the man who had been healed, "It's the Sabbath. The law forbids you to carry your mat." I mean, woo! They totally missed it. But the man replied, this is interesting. The man replied, "The man who made me well said to me, 'Pick up your mat and walk.'" So they asked him, "Who is this fellow who told you to pick it up and walk?" The man who was healed had no idea who it was, for Jesus had slipped away into the crowd that was there. Later, Jesus found him at the temple and said to him, "See, you are well again. Stop sinning, or something worse may happen to you." What did this guy do? It says in the next verse, straight away, the man went away and told the Jewish leaders that it was Jesus who had made him well. What a contrast between this guy and the guy who was born blind. He stands up to the Pharisees and the scribes, or whoever it is. He says, look, Jesus, there's no way God listens to a sinner. He must be somebody impressive. When he finds out who Jesus is, he worships him. This guy runs off and tells the powers that be, oh, it was him who taught me to pick up my mat. It's just a crazy contrast. But I find it very interesting that this is the one person that we see in the New Testament, as far as I can recall, who was healed and did not follow Jesus, or who was healed and did not acknowledge Jesus for who and what he was. Anyway, that's all for today. Thank you. Bye.